All right, so we begin this second layer by adding much more paint. Now the paint consistency is still slightly thinner than melted ice cream. The purpose of this second layer is to cover the canvas as much as possible. The first layer, we just wanted to get the paint on there and see what it looks like. This second layer, we're going to cover it up. Just as before, we're painting with the toe and the belly as much as possible. And you're gonna see me make a few mistakes. I'm gonna cover it a little bit too much. I'll come back through and correct it. I made the white overlap too much into some of the other colors. It's easily fixed, so it's no big deal. I'm gonna come down the line and make sure I get everything properly. Again, made another mistake right there. As you can see, a little more paint than I wanted to be. So I add some water to the number 6 brush and I go back through like an eraser and I erase it. Now, when I stop picking up a lot of paint and it becomes too white and the color seems like it's mixing into the other color too much, I just re-wet the brush and go over it again. It's actually quite simple. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more right over here and we're good. So just to see how I would do this with a round brush, I go through with the round brush. It's good to get a lot of practice with both brushes. I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward past this. We're gonna go ahead and start painting in the hair again. Again, you want the paint to be much thicker. Just a little bit thinner than the consistency of melted ice cream. You want the paint thickness to be somewhere in between melted ice cream and oil. And right now we're painting with the toe. What we're trying to do now is trying to cover up all the space. So all the little gaps in between each color, you want to fill in as much as possible. I get slightly closer to the canvas so I can see that all the colors are actually all the colors are really close together, as close as you can get them together without overlapping. Now I want you to take notice of something. What happens when you overpaint? The tendency is to overpaint when you get to this stage of the painting. And what you're actually doing is picking up paint. Because acrylic paint dries so fast, you're sloshing paint around and you're picking up under layers of paint, which will leave light spots on your painting. We now carefully paint in the eyelashes and the eyes. And we switch to a number 2 round brush. Round circular shapes are probably the most difficult thing to paint. So just take your time with it. And we're painting with the toe. The belly holds most of the paint. So in order to paint with the toe this way, you have to keep refreshing it inside of the paint to keep the paint thick enough, because we're really trying to cover in this layer. And to paint this thin line, just roll it and make sure you locate the very tip of the brush. I'm going to go in and paint the hair. We're still using the number 2 round brush. It's not really such a big deal if this color overlaps with the black. Well, nothing is a big deal. Acrylic paint, very forgiving. Or paint in general is very forgiving. I want you to notice how much paint is on the brush. I completely loaded it with paint. You can barely see the bristles. So in this layer, we're doing all of the same things we did in the first layer, except we're making sure to cover all the gaps and to paint through the light pencil marks. You want to be especially careful while painting in between colors like this. Be sure to have an extra light touch. We load the brush up again and paint the eyebrows. We stick with the number 2 round brush and we start to use color number 3. We go all the way to the edge because we want to get rid of those pencil marks. in areas that won't seem to cover, you can leave a little extra thick layer of paint, like by the upper lip and right there by the nose. The paint will level itself out. We load the brush up again and we start to paint in the side of the shoulder. We now switch to the number 6 round brush. And as usual for this stage of the painting, we load the brush. This layer should be a lot easier because you've already laid out the paint. We're just trying to build it up right now. And as stated earlier, we're just trying to get those lines out and clean the painting up. We're trying to get rid of all those light spots. We use the toe of the brush to paint the bridge of the nose. We're really trying to get rid of all the light areas. And most of them should be in the darker areas or the darker colors. because the paint is thinner in the darker colors. Light colored paint tends to be thicker. We've now switched to color number 5, and we're using the number 6 round brush. We go in, of course, and try to cover up that line, the light pencil mark. We cover it up a little bit with both colors. We paint right over the line. The paint, of course, is pretty thick. We're done with this layer. In the next layer, we're going to go in and add all the finishing touches. We're just going to clean up all the light spots and make sure everything is painted in correctly.